So today I'm going to be working on putting on some butt plates on our Fowlers, our Fowler kits. This isn't usually something that I do, but the fellow that usually does it has the day off, so I'm going to be working on this. We chose to do this because we're working with investment castings, and straight up from the foundry, the investment castings can be twisted, and for the average person to be able to fit a butt plate is a pretty difficult task. So with us being more experienced, we're able to do it pretty easily and help out the customer a lot. So the first thing I'm doing is just cleaning up the edges of this inlet. There's a little fuzz. I'm just using this chisel as a scraper just to clean things up. And I'll brush it out. Clean out a little bit of the chips. Okay. Part of our machining process leaves some tabs on the back here that we'll get rid of these. So now the stock is ready for the butt plate to go in. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take a casting and I'll kind of put it on here, and I'll get a feel for where it's sitting. I've done enough of these that I can figure it out pretty quickly. So I can see it needs bent a little bit. And I'll put it in a vise. That's one thing to keep in mind is you don't always just have to, for a bent casting or in fitting a butt plate, you don't always have to just keep removing wood. You can adjust the butt plate to fit your stock too. So I'm going to bend this a little bit. I twisted it a little bit. Okay, so that's going to be better.
I see.
So it's a start.
Get a feel for where you're.
Okay, now I can see that it needs to be bent in a couple other directions. So it actually needs to be twisted this way. So that's how it needs to be. Because the gap on this side is bigger than the gap on this side. Kind of hard to see.
Okay.
But
Oh yeah, I can see that. That's much bigger.
so now we're going to adjust that. Right, push it on it this way. See if we can even that out a little bit. And I think it needs maybe a tiny bit more. So I'll do a little tiny more and see what it looks like there. Okay, that's getting better. So the gap is relatively equal size on both sides. So now it's hitting at the toe. This will go forward, but it is hitting at the toe, so we'll probably put a little bit of more of a bend to the butt plate. So this is one thing that we've straightened a lot of butt plates over the years, and this is something that we've thought about different ways of trying to mechanize it or make it go faster, but it's a tricky thing to do. You can make forms and so forth, but the problem with forms is that there's always spring back with these parts. It's not a matter of just like pressing it into a form or something. That isn't sufficient. So we're still back to just taking care and doing these by hand is where we're basically at.
So what's it looking like there for you?
Oh, it's looking pretty decent. It's pretty close. So right now, I still want to bend it over a little bit so the gap isn't very equal on both sides. So I'm going to give it a little bit more of that. Hopefully I can straighten it out. That's probably okay. Not great, but okay.
Judge by how even it is on
Yeah,
both
I'm looking at the
sides.
gaps.
Okay.
Now I'm going to adjust the curve of this. So these areas there's a little more gaps. So I'm going to adjust it'll push forward when we screw it in place, but there's still going to be a little gap here if we don't adjust it. So I'm going to
try to see how you do that.
Adjust it just a little bit. So we're gonna take a.
I'm gonna get on the other side.
So we're gonna take a. This is just kind of adjusting the shape of that curve a little bit. Here. And I usually knock this down a little bit too, just from experience. Should be pretty darn close to ready to put on. So this side is looking pretty good. The other side that Katherine already just filmed. And it looks pretty good too, but we still have a little twist. So I'm going to twist it a little bit more and I think we'll have it.
Okay, can I see what you mean by twist?
So what I mean is that the gap in here is pretty narrow.
Okay.
And we're hitting here.
Okay.
But the gap on the other side is pretty much down the whole length.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So we kind of have a twisty situation. So we're going to put it back in the vise and give it another little twist.
I'm going to get where I can see what you're...
So what I'm doing is I'm pushing the front this way.
Okay.
Gotta go enough, not too much. Pretty darn good now. So it's a much better fit.
The way you do it, it looks like magic.
Yeah.
Because
Well, you've done enough. And the top is running a little high now, so I'm going to bend that down. Okay, now we're close enough that we can screw it in place.
Okay. Wow.
So I'm going to take... These drills are made for hinges, and they center in a countersunk hole. Even the best quality ones kind of suck, but they work okay. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to line up the angle. And I'm going to do this bottom one at the same time. Make sure it's centered. Okay, now that won't go deep enough, so we got to drill it deeper. Cleaning out the chips a little bit. Make sure my angles are relatively decent. Want the screws to, the heads to nestle down in the counter bores. Get rid of the chips. Now we'll change bits and we'll put screws in. There's a longer one for the top. It goes in there pretty far. Put a little beeswax on the screws, that helps them go in easier, even if you have a starter hole. Okay. Sounds like my battery's about ready to die. See if it'll put it in the bottom screw or not. So it gives out.
yeah, I just made it.
It's dead. Whoops. Didn't go in very well. Not a bill. Okay, so those screws are in there now. Now we can look at the fit and see how we're doing. So it might be a little high here at the front, so we can tap that down. We're looking along this side, and it's looking pretty good. Look at the other side, see how we did. So on this side, not too bad. So there may be a tiny little gap up here, maybe a little tiny gap up there. So the final fitting, you can, brass is malleable enough, you can snug it in a little bit. can't do huge gaps like this. Softer the brass, the easier it is to do this. But you can do a good bit like this. And basically what we do is we fit these to about what I'd say 95%. Some might be better than that, but they're going to be at least 95%. So now we're going to just file this down slightly. Make sure everything is generally flush, more or less flush. Again, maybe not perfect, but at least 95%. Because we do have to do things efficiently here. So the butt plate hangs over a little bit at the bottom. You can leave that. It doesn't make much difference. Some, original guns often see that. You see that from shrinkage and so forth. But we're going to go ahead and flush this off. Let me get a different file here. It's interesting to see on these trade guns or export grade Fowlers, whatever you want to call them, but they're generally a little thicker at the bottom, the toe. And that may have been intentional for a little more durability, but it also might be that they were doing a similar thing where they were just flushing off the butt plate. And what that'll do is that'll make it a little thicker at the bottom. So that's flushed down. Final thing is I'm going to bevel a little bit. You can do that with the file, but just to soften it a little bit. And that is ready for the last step, which is putting in the pin, and we'll do that later. That pin holds the butt plate down. So that's it.